Thank you, everybody, for coming. In this year, we're going to speak about raising children in a very different way than most regular classes of raising children. Most regular classes, they give you techniques and advice, and they explain that the most important thing, obviously, is tefillah. You want your children to succeed, you have to daven to Hashem, but they actually explain that's the most important thing. But there's another thing that most of us, I think, are dealing with, that sometimes when you deal with children, it becomes monotonous. It's difficult. Yes.
Is it okay if I record it?
Yeah, sure. I'm also recording it here, but you're welcome. Oh, sorry, I forgot this year.
Also, maybe you have a link that I can send to my friend.
Be'ez Hashem. Oh, it's not live. If you want to record it live, you can record it live also. This year is Lili Nishmas Tzipor Feiga Bas Yaakov Zev. She was nifter tragically last week. So, again, we're going to speak about raising children in a very special way, in a very spiritual way, in order to be able to connect to what you're doing, to find ruchnius inside of what you're doing. This is a different than regular chinuch class, where regular chinuch classes usually speak about how to raise your children. I'm not exactly going to get into techniques of what is kedai with your children, what is not kedai, but I'm going to speak about how you are supposed to, when raising your children, for example, when treating them nicely, when punishing them, or when doing good things, when giving them nice things, how you are supposed to think and how you are supposed to feel. So again, it means that you could practice your own techniques, and whatever it is that you study, or whatever it is that you hear your classes on chinuch, and at the same time you can apply this. While this is we're going to explain a little bit more how exactly it works. This is what a person can be thinking and feeling as he's doing his job in this world. So there's a general problem with our lives in this world. Sometimes gets monotonous. Sometimes we get bogged down by the physicality, and we get into, we disconnect, we disassociate our avodas Hashem, our serving of Hashem and a connection to Hashem. We disconnect it with our physical actions. A lot of times we do physical actions, and at the time that we're doing it, we aren't thinking about anything more than our physical actions. But here we're going to have explanations of some very basic things that we do, and tools for how to make it from something very mundane to something very special. So we're going to describe a little bit in the beginning how it works in general, how this practice works, to what I call spiritualize something that's very physical, and then we're going to get into examples of specific things that we may do, or that every mother, or most fathers also, that they do these things, and they could do it in a very different way. They could do it in a way that's going to be spiritually uplifting, that's going to bring them closer to Hashem. So again, you're going to end up doing the same thing. You're not necessarily going to change what you do, just what you're thinking when you do it, and how you're connecting to Hashem as you're doing these actions are going to be completely different. So this is what we call mindfulness. Being aware of the ruchnius, of the spirituality of Hashem that's inside the actions that you're doing. So everyone is very mindful, everyone's very aware of when we hear shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we're very aware that this loud noise is not just a mitzvah that Hashem told us to do. It's not just something that we have to go to shul and we hear this noise, and when we go home, so we were Yotze Yedei Chova, we fulfilled our obligation and everything's fine. We feel the arousal, we feel the experience of the blast of the shofar inside, that reverberates inside of our bones. So the reason is that we're mindful, we're aware of some of the significance of the deeper meaning inside the blasts of the shofar, and when we listen to the shofar, we're able to connect to what's inside the shofar and uplift ourselves. So this is what we're doing, what we're going to be speaking about. And when a person does hear the cry of a baby, when a person does simple things like bathing the child, or punishing or rewarding the child, or all sorts of different things that we're going to speak about, we're going to learn how to connect to Hashem, and it can actually be a message to us, just like the blast of the shofar. And just like the blast of the shofar rouses us to tshuva, there are going to be other things that we're going to be doing or we're going to be experiencing with our children that could arouse us to different midas. So basically, what's going to end up happening is instead of doing the same mundane things that you do every time, and maybe it may get difficult, it may get either boring or annoying to deal with certain things like waking up in the middle of the night and dealing with your child, when you realize what's special about it and what's kodesh about it and how to be able to attach yourself to Hashem through that, then you completely uplift it and you could actually get inspiration and interest from these actions, from these simple actions that you might have done before with a lot of frustration. So the reason why this works is very important to understand that everything in this world is just a mashal, is just a shadow, like a shadow is an imprint or a silhouette of a person, and it's not really the person itself, but it gives some type of hint to the person. If you see the shape, a big person has a big shadow and a small person has a small shadow, and you can look at the shadow and you could see something inside the shadow about a person. So to this physical world, we have hints to the spiritual world. We have hints to ruchnius, to what's really going on. And if we learn to connect and we learn what these hints are, then we can connect and come close to Hashem through the physical things and be able to attach, like we do with a shofar. We're able to see not just the shadow of the shofar, not just to hear the voice of the sound of the shofar, but we're able to actually connect and attach ourselves to the ruchnius, the holiness in the shofar, meaning the power of tshuva, which is the main aspect of holiness that's inside the shofar. So this is going to allow us to connect to Hashem through every single thing, and it's going to, Bez Hashem, be very, hopefully, turn some very maybe boring or difficult things into something that's very, very spiritually uplifting. Not all these things are very boring, but this is like the sun and the moon. When the sun shines on the moon, sometimes the moon receives the light and it's shining, and sometimes the moon is dark and it's not so shining. So also us, in our lives, we go through times when we're more spiritually connected, more attached to ruchnius, and we go through times when we're more distant, much like the sun and the moon. The sun is always shining, but the moon sometimes receives light, sometimes it doesn't. So too in our lives, sometimes we're receiving light from Hashem, sometimes we're attaching ourselves to Hashem and feeling good about our connection to Hashem, and sometimes we feel distant, and sometimes we feel far. So when Mashiach comes, after Mashiach comes, the light of the moon is going to be constantly like the light of the sun. The light of the moon won't be going up and down, like on and off the way it is now. It's going to be constantly bright. If we are able to learn how to attach ourselves to Hashem in everything that we do, then we are able to bring ourselves, in a small sense, to the times of Mashiach, to the times where the light of the moon, meaning the light of our existence here in this world, is going to be like the light of the sun. The light of the sun is the spirituality, is the ruchnius. It's always there. It's always hidden inside of all the gashmias, of all the physicality. Just sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. If you're always going to see it, you're going to be in a place, in a headspace, with an attitude of a person that's going to be in Olam Haba. And that really is, in the world to come, that really is our existence. Our existence is going to be purely Kodesh and purely holy. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's purely holy, and we're going to be able to connect to Hashem in everything. So, again, we're now going to start discussing in more detail about some of the things that we go through in raising children. The first important thing to understand is why we have children. The Rebbe in the Likutei Moharan, he says there are three reasons why people have children. The lowest reason, unfortunately, many people have children for this reason, is just for personal benefit, just because they want to have someone to help them out when they're older, they want to have children around the house, they want to have excitement and interest and purely physical benefits. The next level is a person who wants to succeed. He wants to be close to Hashem. He wants to be not necessarily close to Hashem, but he wants to have a lot of Olam Haba. Now this person is a lot smarter than the first person, because instead of running after filling his stomach in this world and having pleasures here in this world, he's actually running after a much bigger pleasure, a much more eternal pleasure. But that, as we know, is not the ultimate purpose. just to run after Olam Haba, just to run after the future world, and just to amass mitzvahs for future pleasure, is similar in a sense to the first person, is that he's just doing it for personal benefit. Just his personal benefit is much, much smarter. He's much more intelligent about it, and it's not necessarily such a bad thing. It's not an evil person who's running after mitzvahs in order to bring Olam Haba. A person who's running after physicality is very bad. But the highest level of serving Hashem, and this is the highest level of reason to bring in children into the world, is in order to bring Hashem into the world. Is that Hashem created the world in order to rest here, in order to bring Kedusha into a physical world, into a lowly world. When Hashem in Shamayim, in heaven with all of his angels, with all of his malachim, when he is in charge, it's not such a big special thing. It's not so amazing to be in charge of malachim, of angels, and of all sorts of heavenly realms, when those heavenly realms have no freedom of choice. They have no ability to choose to do good things or to do bad things. All they want to do is good things. So in Shamayim, in heaven, there's no real honor that's brought to Hashem like there is down here. Down here in this world, when a person brings holiness, brings Kedusha into this world, he is bringing the greatest kavod, the greatest honor, and the reason why the world is created is for this great honor that Hashem gets from us. From us being in this world, from us having difficulties, from us overcoming and battling our battle here in this world, we uplift ourselves and we bring ourselves close to Hashem. This is the purpose of the world, and this is the reason why we are supposed to serve Hashem. We're supposed to serve Hashem just to bring kavod to Hashem and to bring Hashem down here into this physical world. So when we do this, we bring the greatest kavod to Hashem. This should be our main purpose in having children. In having children and raising children, we're just trying to further Hashem's kavod here in this world, that there should be more people here in this world. So it comes out that when having children, it's understandable, and it comes out obviously from what we said before, that having children here in this world is only or mainly going to be effective when these children are doing good things. So our purpose here in this world is to bring our children to a level of understanding and knowledge of Hashem that they can do tremendously good things. Instead of, in the beginning, every child doesn't know anything about Hashem. He's like the first level of people that we spoke about, that really all he's doing is for self-centered purposes. All he wants is to eat and to play, and he doesn't know, if you talk to him about Hashem, he doesn't understand what Hashem is or who Hashem is. It doesn't mean anything to him. But as he grows older, his understanding becomes bigger. Mitzvahs, very good. There's Olam Haba, there's Gehenna. I want to be in the good place, not in the bad place, not in the scary place, not in the place that hurts. You get punished for bad things and you get rewarded for good things. This is what a child is interested in the next level. And as he grows older, he comes to a higher, deeper and deeper understanding until he comes to realize, to understand that the purpose of existence, the purpose of the world, is to come close to Hashem and to bring greatness to Hashem's name. And this is hopefully where we're trying to be. Again, nobody's perfect, and obviously we have our own things, but this is the goal. This is why we have children, and this is where we're trying to get to ourselves, and this is where we're trying to bring the children to Bez Hashem. Does anyone have any questions so far? If there's anything, okay. So, again, children, they grow up and they develop themselves starting with very small tools, with small things, and they come to understand bigger things. The funny thing is that you can't just wait till your children get older, and when they get older, then you'll enjoy them. And when they're younger, they learn the most basic tools of life. They learn how to play with toys. And this seems like a very simple thing. This is a very simple thing in our eyes, because playing with toys is sometimes very, very basic. They have a rattle, and it doesn't. For us, it's not so exciting that we shake a rattle and it makes noise. But for the child to see something very simple like this, to shake a rattle and it makes noise, is something that's amazing to the child. He says, wait, I moved my hand, and because I moved my hand, I heard something. Something came out of it. There was some kind of effect. These toys that the child is going to play with are going to be the basis for his future understanding in the world. And everything he's going to be connecting to, everything he's going to relate is going to be on the basis of the tools that he learned when he was smaller, when he was playing with toys. The toys are like a mushel, like a small example of something that's going to be later on. Later on, he's going to get to something more serious. He's gonna, when you speak to him, let's say about Olam Haba and Gan Eden and Gehenna, so there's a punishment, there's reward, and there's punishment. These things are going to be understood based on his experiences with the rattle. He says, I moved this move, and something shook, and something made something happen. So I understand also when if I do something I'm not allowed to, if I stick my hand in the cake, so I may get scolded. My parents may say something not nice to me, and I'll be embarrassed. So I see that there's a cause and effect. The child himself learns from the small things, from the toys, to come to big things. And this is also how we learn our connection to Hashem. Also, we learn from small things to big things. We first, when a person, let's say, is about tshuva, or as a person grows up, again, like we said before, he understands smaller things. He understands his little understanding of Hashem. At first, the person thinks that Hashem came here, Hashem told me to do all these things, and I'm going to do it. As a person gets older, he understands that there's a connection, a relationship to Hashem, a relationship of love to Hashem, and the interaction between him and Hashem becomes much deeper. But the original tools become like toys. So when a child plays with toys, we have to understand that we also have our own toys. And these toys are, for now, they may be toys, but in the future, they're going to be very important tools. They're going to be something that are going to be a basis for our closeness to Hashem. So when we have a child that wants to ask us for help with their toys, we shouldn't be so upset. We shouldn't be frustrated. These toys are important in order to understand how to come close to Hashem for the child. And it's something that's important for us also because we have this in our own personal lives. And in general, when a person has an experience with a child, he could see it as something separate from him, as something that this is something the child's going through, or you could see it as something that he's going through or she's going through. And when you see it as something that you're going through, you benefit tremendously. One thing is very simple level. You have empathy. You understand what the child's going through. You say, you know what? I have my own toys. I'm struggling with in my avodas Hashem. If a person's trying to do a diet, so usually in the beginning they struggle with something very, very simple. They struggle with the actual technical part of how they're going to overcome the desire for the food. And really, this is like a toy in the face of the way he's really supposed to eat. And maybe in the beginning he's, let's say, working on a certain level, working on not eating a certain types of food, the most unhealthy food. And afterwards, when he was holding by that level, he's going to go on to another level of healthiness. He's also going to exercise. They're also going to do something else. Now, these are the first level that he was holding on is a toy for the next level. Once he gets to the next level, the first level is like he'll look at someone else who's trying not to drink Coca-Cola, and he'll say, well, that's nothing. That's like a little toy. That's like shaking a rattle. What's so interesting about that? I'm already eating only organic food or something like that. Also in Avodas Hashem, we have levels. And according to our level of closeness to Hashem, according to our interaction with Him, and according to our practice, the way we practice our closeness to Hashem, the beginning levels become like toys. If you think about how it was when you first started serving Hashem, when you first started relating to the idea of tefillah, relating to the idea of a real relationship with Hashem, you'll realize that now you're hopefully on a completely different level. And the original thoughts and the original feelings that you had in relationship to Hashem is completely nothing, literally like a toy. But it was something that you had to go through. It was something it was a step that you had to take in order to come to your realization now. And sometimes the steps are even like wrong. A person comes to something that he didn't really understand, that's not the way you're supposed to relate to Hashem. And afterwards he sees, you're really supposed to relate to Hashem in a different way. But the only way you could do it is by playing with these toys. These toys have no ultimate benefit in the end. The toys in the physical sense, like playing with a rattle is not, the child himself is not really going to, it's a building block for something in the end. But it isn't something, he's not going to continue playing with a rattle for the rest of his life. So in our Avodas Hashem, it's the same thing. When a person sees that his child is going through something, he's playing with arts and crafts or playing with some kind of toys, if a person relates, a mother or father relates to this as a fundamental growing stage, a fundamental step in his life that the father and mother also has, that they're also going through, then it transforms the action, it transforms the interaction with your child and the interaction with your child's toys to something that's literally from basic nothing to something that's very uplifting and very, very interesting and very important. If when I come to help my child with a toy, I realize that I also need help with my toys, and my toys today are tomorrow going to be nothing to me, but today they're so important to me. There's a medrash, a very interesting story that Yitzchak Avinu, when he was being taken to when he was arguing with Ishmael. Ishmael would say to him, I'm going to take away all your toys. He heard about the Akedah, and that Yitzchak Avinu was going to be at the Akedah. I don't know exactly how they heard about it because Ishmael was much older, but Ishmael said to Esav, I said to Yitzchak Avinu, he said, when you die, when you do Akedah on you, I'm going to take your toys. And he was upset about it. It was something that was very, he was very attached to. A child is very often attached to his toys. That's who he is. That's what's going to build him, and that's what's going to bring him to the next level. You take your kids out to the park and they swing on the monkey bars, they learn things. They learn to be tough, they learn to be strong, they learn to build themselves, they learn to try new things, they learn to deal with their fears or their interests or their excitement. They learn to slide down a slide, and there's something that's fun in the world, and sometimes you have to climb up, a ladder that may be hard in order to slide down a slide, and that may be fun. So if you take a moment to think about the toy, you might be able to understand some things about the toy in detail, let's say for example like the slide, and you may be able to imagine, that if you have to watch your child sliding down the slide, and you have to watch him when he goes up the slide because there may be people that will push him or whatever it is, you imagine yourself, you understand that you are also, in a sense, being sent a connection to Hashem, an opportunity to connect to Hashem on a different level. You don't need to wait till you hear a shofar blast, to hear a loud noise, to awaken yourself. When you see your child walking up, it's a kind of message that Hashem is giving you, like a kind of shofar blast that's blasting through yourself, here in this case, not through your ears, but through your eyes, where you see your little child stepping up a ladder and then going down the slide. We have the same thing. We also have to step up ladders. We also have to work a little bit sometimes to get some type of achievement. For the child, the achievement is the fun of sliding down the slide. But for us, we have our own achievements, and we have our own levels in closeness to Hashem that we're trying to get to, and we have to work. It doesn't always come easy. We should take a lesson from the child. The child says, I'm thinking about the slide when I walk up that ladder. I'm not worried about the ladder. The ladder doesn't scare me. When a person looks at his children and his development of his children in this way, he completely can transform his connection with his relationship with his child at the time that he's relating to his children doing these things. And the most important thing is that he or she has a tremendous uplifting in the physical things that you're doing. Instead of doing physical things, I have an hour to watch my child, and this hour is going to be a list of things which we're going to get to some more of them, changing diapers and bathing and waking up in the middle of the night and watching, dealing with your babies crying or kvetching or other things like that, or even punishing your children. These are some things we're going to try to get through tonight. When instead of experiencing this as something you have to take care of, as for a purpose in the future, sometime in the future I hope my child is going to be a big tzaddik, and these toys are obviously good for him, but no, I don't have to wait for the future to get the experience, to get the closeness to Hashem, to be able to spiritualize my actions now, to be able to reap the benefits. I can actually reap the benefits today. And this is a tremendous, tremendous difference in your avodas Hashem if you practice this and if you try to find Hashem in every mundane thing that you're doing. Then again, like we said before, a person's day is going to, even his night, meaning his distance from Hashem, when he's darkness and he's not actually, say, davening or going to a shir, where he's in darkness, that darkness will be brightened up by the light of the moon. The light of the moon will be like the light of the sun, because for him, he or she is in the madrega, he's in the level of olam haba, and everything will be spirituality for them. Everything will be closest to Hashem. So again, when you watch your children play, if you connect to the meaning of what's happening here, and you connect and you relate to the fact that you yourself are going through the same thing, and this is a necessary stage for everybody on every level, every tzaddik on every level, the highest the high and the lowest of the low, they're all going through this. And we all have toys that are today, for someone else it's going to be looked down as toys. For someone else, they look at me and what I'm doing as toys. But maybe for someone else, what I'm doing maybe like something they can't understand, something that's very, very high. And same thing with us. What we do, our children can't understand. But for our children, what they do, they're living their lives with their toys. Again, if we relate to this, we can step ourselves up on a physical sense, and we can lift ourselves from the physical experience of watching children and the mundaneness of watching children, which sometimes, again, I'm not saying it's always mundane, but sometimes a person just has to sit there and watch and make sure they don't run out of the park, and it could be, and other things like that, and it could be difficult, whatever it is that they're doing. It could be difficult dealing with their children, and it's something that we have the opportunity to uplift. We're going to speak about another example. This is something that's very important. It's brought down in the Zohar that the idea of changing diapers. It's an unpleasant topic, but it's something that most mothers have to do, and certainly also fathers usually have to do also. Usually the experience that we come to changing a diaper is unpleasant. We're like, okay, I don't want to have to deal with this, especially on Shabbos. If a person doesn't use wipes or other things like that, it could be very, very difficult, and it could be a lot of work. And certainly it has unpleasant things to it. The Zohar says that changing of the diaper of the child is something that's not meaningless. It's something that has tremendous, tremendous meaning. One of the most important things in the world. What do I mean? The Zohar says that changing the diaper is the idea, literally, of tshuva. The Zohar says that a mother who comes to change a baby's diaper is what exactly is happening on Yom Kippur. We have a special, special light of Yom Kippur, the special light of tshuva, which comes down and allows us to do easy tshuva, to cleanse ourselves from our averas, and to start new completely. This is a very important thing. Sometimes people don't think that after they do tshuva that they're completely cleansed of their sins. Again, there are different aspects of the sins, some that do get cleansed more easily and some that don't. But there's a story that I heard, my brother told me. One of his friends is a gabbai for Rav Reuben Elbaz, and he's a famous Rav in Yerushalayim. And he said that this story happened to Rav Reuven Elbaz's gabbai. One day he wasn't feeling well. I don't exactly know what happened, and he was sick and he died. And they brought him into the hospital, and it was completely dead. They put him in the morgue, and he was there for quite some time in the refrigerators. And when Rav Reuven Elbaz heard about it, he was a very, very big tzaddik. He heard about it. He said, no. It's not his time. That's not my gabbai, not now. And he said, we're going to the hospital. He picked up his close students, and some of these were my brother's friends. My brother lives with me in Yerushalayim, and he brought them to the morgue, and he somehow got permission to open up the body bag and to take him out of the freezer where he was already pretty much frozen. And he opened up the body bag, and I think he put his face on his face, and he started davening. Now this was documented. You could see him speak about it. After he woke up, he told the story of what happened to him in Shemayim. The most important thing, even if it's hard for you to hear the story, the point is what he described as his experiences in Shemayim are real and important to understand that this is how tshuva works. So he described that, my friends, just by the way, my brother's friends said they have pictures of him with his everything, the toe tag, the medical papers, He shows everything. There's a documented case. I heard that the only reason why he didn't get life insurance is because apparently life insurance needs you to be dead for 3 days, and the life insurance looked into it and they realized it's not the custom of tzaddikim who bring back people from the dead to do it after 3 days. So people were safe from the life insurance, did not have to pay life insurance to this man. But he speaks about his experiences online. You could see him on YouTube. I'm not sure exactly what his name is, but if you want, you could I could find out for you. But he speaks he's a public speaker now, and he goes around. There are a couple other people that had similar experiences, but he said that one thing that he went to Shamayim, and he was about tshuva, and he went through the whole court case in Shamayim, and they judged him for everything he did except for things that he did before he was about tshuva. So once he was about tshuva, he said that from before he was about tshuva, he was completely, they didn't mention in Shamayim one word of any of the averos that he did. He used to be not religious, and he did what non-religious people do, and they literally didn't even mention the fact that he was about tshuva. They didn't say, oh, you know what, you did all these things, but it's okay because you did tshuva. They literally, they glossed over it completely. They just did not pay attention to it. He said, except for one thing. One thing they did pay attention to, and that was the fact that they said he didn't get complete tshuva for his Chilul Shabbos. And they explained why. They explained to him. They said when he gave drushas, when he would speak to the people, when Rav Reuben Elbas's shul or other shuls, then he would speak about the fact that he was not religious, and he would speak openly about the fact he used to play soccer on Shabbos or do maybe some other types of Chilul Shabbos. And the fact that he wasn't embarrassed about it, and he would speak about it so openly for not a good enough reason, I guess, was a pagam, was a fault in his tshuva. He didn't really feel bad about what he did completely, the way he was supposed to. So because of that, he didn't really get complete tshuva. But ultimately, if a person really does feel bad and doesn't make light of the fact that he did averos in the past, so his tshuva is really accepted and it's completely cleaned. Just like a child. When a child soils himself, it's exactly like a person doing an avera. An avera dirties the clothes of the neshama. The neshama dresses itself up inside this body and inside other, spiritual things inside of our body. And in the end of the day, when we do averos, we dirty a certain part of the neshama that could be cleaned. We can clean it, and it will be cleaned, and all we have to do is tshuva. So when a person changes a diaper, a person has to understand that the Zohar says that this experience, this action, this thing that we're doing is actually an expression, meaning a physical manifestation, a physical existence in this world of tshuva. That's what the Zohar says. The perfect mashal for tshuva is not just a mashal. It's literally a shadow that's being caused by the body itself. And the body is the tshuva. The shadow is the diaper changing. The fact that people do averos causes the children to dirty themselves, and the fact that we could do tshuva gives us the ability to clean our children and to clean ourselves. So next time we are involved in this type of process, in the diaper changing process, we should be aware of the fact that the soiling of the child is something that relates to us also. Everyone understands that we do mistakes, we do things that are wrong, and we have to clean ourselves. This cleanliness, this cleansing process is tshuva. So this takes something very mundane and lifts it up. I also have there's a whole series, I guess a whole different class about shopping. When a person goes shopping, how to be able to relate to the different things that he's doing. One of the things is, in the grocery shopping, every item that you're taking off the shelf, if you realize these are items that you want for yourself because you're buying them, you obviously want them and you need them, you realize you're attaching yourself to these items. By virtue of the fact that you're purchasing them means you're associating yourself with these items. What do these items mean on a deeper level? Diapers, for example, and wipes and other things that you might need for the diaper changing process. You could understand that what you're doing is really, you want to attach yourself, you want to have the meat of tshuva. So next time you buy diapers in the grocery store, or buy wipes or other things that are associated with this, then you can have a tefillah in your heart, you can have an awareness, you can have an expression, you can realize that this is an expression of your desire to do tshuva. Because even though you would do it anyways, even though the secular people do it also, We have to spiritualize. We have the mitzvah, we have the ability to realize the panemius, the kedusha, and the holiness inside of everything that we do. And a Jew, everything that he does is for a good purpose. We said before, the reason why we're having children is just to bring Hashem into the world. So the reason the child himself and all that's associated with it are just a mashal, are just a parable for what we ourselves are going through in our lives. Diapers and these things are a parable for our tshuva. So when we buy the diapers, we know we have to associate ourselves with through the purchase of the diapers. We understand that we want to associate ourselves with tshuva. When a person thinks about this, next time you go, and next time you're in the grocery store, next time you have to buy diapers, and certainly next time you have to change a diaper, you realize that this is a message for me, or this is an awakening for me to do tshuva. This will completely uplift a very mundane. These are very mundane things that are not so spiritual if you're not thinking about it, if you're not trying to be aware of it. Again, we can't do this in every way at all times. We have to practice. Start with one thing. It could be diapers. It could be, watching your kids in the park or something like that. I would suggest starting with something that is regular. I think diapers would be an easy way to start. Changing the bath also has the same thing. When a person dirties himself, the child, just through being around, he picks up dirt underneath his chin, and sometimes the baby just smells because he sweats also and gets dirty, and sometimes it depends on what age, they play in the sand and do other things. So they need to have a bath. The bath also is the same type of thing. We can distinguish in our own hearts and our own minds, we can understand the difference between a complete dirty diaper, something which you call like a complete avera, over something which we just kind of pick up over time. When a person, let's say, goes and works in an office, if a woman is working with men, the type of language they might hear amongst the non-Jewish men, or the type of comments that they might, or the type of connection or association that might happen to them in different areas, the things they might see even driving down the streets here in Florida. It's a type of dirt that you might pick up that may not be so noticeable, but it's something we have to cleanse ourselves from. When you give your child a bath, these are things that we're supposed to think about. We're supposed to remember and understand the different types of dirtiness that we pick up in our lives, and things that we have to be aware of, that we can't just brush aside all these little things, these little bad things that we pick up in different areas. We have to realize and be aware of them, and we have to take care of ourselves. So a bath you don't have to do 3 times a day. Maybe diapers you do, but the bath we also have to take care of in our own way. We have to take care of the things that we pick up from the streets, or even sometimes from our children, or different types of, sometimes our children get angry and it affects us, and we may be very calm, but children start fighting, and like you can't see one child hit the other child. It could make a parent angry. So these types of bad midas that we might be picking up around us would be really like a mashal for what's going on when we bathing our children.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you be thinking on these things in the bathroom while you give your child a bath?
So it depends. It depends on how deep you're going with it. If you're thinking very simply, on a very simple level, it's okay. If you think very simply, I also have these things. If you're thinking about it as a simple parable, and you're not thinking about the kedusha inside of such a thing, so then that's fine. If you think about personal character trait developments, the poskim, you could ask, as I understand, the Ashkenazi poskim say that you're allowed to think about, you could think about simple character development in the bathroom. It's not, it's not, if you go too far with it and you start thinking about the exact, let's say, small averas that you might have picked up over the days, so then, and different aspects of the Torah involved in it, so then that's not good. But just to think, did I do something wrong? It would be permissible for sure in the, in the bathroom to think about such a thing. Again, don't want to do too much. If it sounds too holy, it sounds much more than just calculation. What did I do today, and what did I, maybe I'm picking up some bad things. Then it's not good. The ultimate level of this, there are many different levels of practicing this, and some of it could be just awareness, just simple the fact that I know that my child is going through something, I'm going through the same thing. I have to do tshuva. The child is, a child needs a diaper. That's one level. The highest level of this may not be done. Possibly, you could ask your own Rav. I don't know who. I could try to look into it, but the highest level of this may not be done at the time of changing a diaper, let's say, when a person's actually has a tefillah in his heart and really is trying to connect to Hashem through the midah of tshuva, that's the ultimate level that I understand in this type of practice. That when we're really trying to connect to Hashem through the action that we're doing, very much like the Tkiyah Shofar, the blast of the shofar, we're just trying to connect to Hashem through the tshuva. I don't know if that would be so appropriate for the actual time that the diaper is being changed. But again, it depends on what level you're, how intense are you really. If you're really thinking about Hashem at that moment and trying to attach yourself to Hashem in that way, it could be it's okay, it could be it's not. I don't know. I personally don't go so far in changing a diaper. I don't think that it doesn't feel right to me. But for all other things, it's fine. If you're not actually in the bathroom, if you're not in a place where you can think about Torah, but even when a person takes a shower, when a person cleanses himself, so then you're doing the same thing. You're doing a physical action on your body, which is something that you want to do on your neshama. You want to cleanse your neshama. The fact that your body gets dirty is really only because our neshamas get dirty. My Rav, Michael Dorfman, he said he never needed deodorant. In Russia, he was very old. He was like the oldest Breslover chassid Breslover Rav for sure. When he was nistalic, when he passed on, and he mentioned to me. I spoke to him about it personally. He said, I was very lucky. He grew up in Russia. Sometimes it was very hot. He was in Siberia for many, many years. And in Siberia, I don't know how hot it gets, but in other places, he said there are other people that have these problems, but there are special people that are clean. They're clean inside, and sometimes they don't need to shower. I heard Rav Shach also, he didn't shower with soap, and I don't think that he would have done that if he was smelling. He had a special schut, special merit to be able to not have this dirt on his body, and therefore he was able to keep his body clean also. So this is also, again, you don't have to just do it when you're doing something to your child. You also could do it when you yourself are showering. It's something that's very important. Any type of cleansing has its own thing. Sometimes when with dishes, each topic has its own thing. So another thing that mothers do more than fathers usually, but fathers also have to help out sometimes, and that's waking up in the middle of the night. And this is something that really could be really difficult, but really rewarding because everything that we're doing here in this world, our whole purpose here in this world, like we said before in the beginning of this year, that it's trying to bring godliness into the lowest levels, into the physical world. That's why we have mitzvahs that we do with our hands, with our feet, mitzvahs that we do with our bodies. Waking up in the middle of the night, especially for a child, is the aspect of arousing, bringing knowledge, bringing awareness and intelligence, awareness of Hashem into the darkness. When a person has to wake up in the middle of the night to raise his children, to help his child with a bottle, or to help his child with he's crying, and to bring him into your bed so he could sleep nicely and he could have the energy that he needs for the next day, that itself is exactly what you're doing. You're waking up in the darkness. You're waking up in the time when there is no intelligence, when even your son is not so intelligent at that time, and all he's doing is crying, and you're waking up to soothe him. You're waking up to bring a calmness and a life inside, to bring him back to sleep so he could do what he needs. But by you waking up in the darkness, you're actually bringing holiness, you're bringing Kedusha into the darkest times. It's a certain aspect of waking up for Chatzos that men do in the middle of the night. They wake up for Chatzos, and we say Tikkun Chatzos, and again, we sit down on the floor and we cry for the Churban Beis HaMikdash, about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, and it's something that arouses, it's something that brings in knowledge and Kedusha into the middle of the night, into the deepest and darkest times. So when a person has to wake up in the middle of the night, if they realize that they're doing, she's doing her own Tikkun Chatzos, her own midnight prayer, and this is what she's doing when she's waking up, she's realizing that she's waking up to bring holiness into the darkness. To raise a child in this world is to bring holiness into the darkness. That's why raising children is so important. Men who have a big mitzvah of learning Torah, they take off a tremendous amount of hours, just to even men in Yerushalayim that are learning all day, they take off who knows how many hours to help raise the children. And the women, their whole day, most of the time, if they're not working or whatever it is, it's revolving around their children. Why do we go so far? Most of our time, most of our efforts, most of our money is spent on our children. It's not just because we get a good feeling out of it. It's because this is what Hashem wants from us. Hashem wants to further His knowledge here in this world, to expand the kedusha here in this world, so that children will go around and teach others to grow up, and He Himself will grow up and do mitzvahs. And we ourselves have to realize that we also are going through this. When we wake up in the middle of the night, we are actually doing this in a physical sense. We're going in the darkness and we're waking up and we're trying to bring knowledge into the world by helping our children. If we realize how important this is, it changes it completely. It changes waking up in the middle of the night, something that is most difficult and most frustrating, and I wish I didn't have to do it, to something which is an opportunity, a tremendous opportunity to connect to Hashem and say, Hashem, I'm willing to wake up in the middle of the night for you. I'm willing to do this, and I'm happy, not just to raise my child in the future somewhere, but I know that I'm active right now by waking up. Waking up is drawing knowledge into your body. That's what waking up is. When your body has no knowledge and no awareness, you're sleeping. When the knowledge and awareness comes into your body, you're awake. So that is very much like what we're trying to do with our children. We're trying to bring knowledge and awareness of Hashem into this physical world. The physical world is like our body. So when we bring knowledge, we wake ourselves up. The awakeness of our of the waking ourselves up itself, that is a mashal, that is a connected, it's rooted in a ruchnistic level, it's rooted in the bringing of knowledge and awakeness of Hashem here into this world. People that don't know about Hashem, even if they're serving Hashem day and night, they're running around, and mothers could have this a lot. They feel like their whole day is somewhere revolved around mitzvahs, but they feel like they have no ruchnis in their lives. They feel like they have no connection to Hashem in their whole lives because they're running from one, they're picking up their children and they're bringing them here, and the children go to learn. That's very nice, but the mother might not have a chance to learn so much. And if that happens, then they may feel disconnect. They may feel like they don't have time to do hispodus, to daven to Hashem, to speak to Hashem in their own words, and they might feel like their days are disconnecting. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen. So this, again, is awaking. The Rebbe says that if that does happen, it's like you're sleeping. It's like you're sleeping even though you're totally awake. Because if you're not aware, if you don't have knowledge, so that's what it means when the body's sleeping. When a person's not aware, he's out of it. If he's drugged up and he's just with his eyes see, but his brain doesn't pick up the messages, then the same thing is, it's equivalent to being knocked out, to being sleeping. So when a person is running around his whole day, not aware of Hashem, not thinking about Hashem, not connecting to Hashem, it's like he's sleeping. If you practice these things as much as possible, and again, hopefully we'll have more, shiurim you could see online, different types of things that we're going to speak about these things, you could learn to connect to Hashem in anywhere you are. And you don't have to wait till you do hispodus, till you daven to Hashem in a private room when the kids are sleeping and after you already ate supper and after you're already so tired you probably want to, go to sleep anyways, that you're able to connect before and you're able to connect throughout the craziness of the day. So that's waking up in the middle of the night. Sometimes, another thing, when a person hears the baby crying, this is a very simple one, a very easy one, we can connect to the cry of the child in a sense that we understand that we also have a cry. We also want things from Hashem, and we also, in our hearts, we have something that's disturbing us. And we may or may not be able to cry like a baby, to cry with tears, but we have to understand that we should, and we should want to. And when the baby cries and you hear it and it hurts you, it wakes up something inside your heart, that arousal, that feeling is something that we have to uplift. We have to connect to Hashem with it. We have to say, Hashem, this pain that I'm feeling is really pain that I also feel. I feel the same pain in my service of Hashem. I am not serving you the way I want to. I want to serve you more. And this is something that is tremendously, tremendously powerful. I even heard there's a segula, I don't know a source for such a thing, but it's exactly what we're speaking about here, a segula, a specific segula for having your tefillas answered, to cry at the time that the baby is crying at the bris milah. Why? Because the baby is in the middle of doing this super, super holy thing. His cries are very, very special. When I'm davening, I'm attaching my tefillas to this cry of the baby, and it goes up with the cry of the baby. It's a very special thing. But you don't have to wait till bris milah to cry in your heart, to ask Hashem for a tefillah for something that you need. Whenever your child is crying, you could say to yourself, I understand that I have the same thing in my heart. I have a cry, and I'm not able to sometimes always to express it. Maybe some people are, but me personally, I'm not always able to cry with tears or to cry from the depth of my heart. The child is crying, that's all he knows. All he knows is to cry from the top of his lungs, depths of his heart, whatever he has, he's using to cry. So when we hear this cry, when we experience this feeling of feeling sorry and feeling bad for your child, we have to understand that we have the same thing inside of ourselves. We're really going through the same thing in our lives. We have to cry out to Hashem, and Bez Hashem, and a schus also in the fact that we're answering our child's cries, that we can also feel that just like I am doing to my child, I want Hashem to do to me. Very much a lot of mitzvahs are like that. I don't have one off the top of my head, but basically we're doing something that we would like Hashem to do and to bring down here into this world. I guess if a person hears the blast of a shofar, we're hearing, just like we're coming to hear the loud noise, and all we are doing, we do the mitzvah by hearing the loud noise. Even if you don't think all these thoughts of tshuva and everything, the fact that I'm doing this loud noise, I would like Hashem to arouse me also to tshuva. And really, I'm doing something physical down below, and I would like something from up above, that I'm really trying to connect to Hashem in a way from up above. So too, when you hear a child who's crying, you're trying to connect to the child, and trying to relate to the fact that I also have the same thing. And it's not to go down necessarily. What I'm trying to say is how to get up to Hashem, how to come to relate and to connect to Hashem through the physical things, through the physical cry of the child. So another thing is a very important, very, very important thing. Sometimes very often, parents have to punish their children. As the children get older, they do things that aren't right. This punishment, if a person has to give a punishment, whatever it is, whether it's a harsh word or whether it's something that a mother or father has to say to a child, it's very important to remember that they are acting, in a sense, their relationship with their children is kind of like Hashem's relationship with us. The children are going to base a lot of the things that they're experiencing with their parents to the experience that they're going to relate to Hashem with. So when we relate to our children, we understand that Hashem relates to us in the same way. Good parents, they're mechanech, they train their children in good ways. They punish them, let's say, if they're going too far off, and they reward them, in times when they're doing good, and they encourage them, and they do all these things. We would like for Hashem to do the same thing to us, and Be'emes He does. He really guides us in the right way. And when a person punishes his child, he could understand that all the difficult things that Hashem gives him or her are also, in a sense, punishments. And just like when I have to punish my child, I know I'm doing it for his benefit. I'm not doing it for my benefit. I'm doing it because he needs to be led in the right way. And I understand now, when I punish my child, I feel it gives me chizuk to continue to understand how Hashem relates to me. That Hashem also, when He punishes me, it's only for my benefit. If the child really knew how beneficial it was for him, then he would really, really appreciate it. Once it happened, I gave my son a very big punishment, something that was out of the ordinary. I don't remember what he did. I'm sure it wasn't so bad, but for him, it was something that I thought that it was appropriate. I gave him this punishment, and I spoke to him about it, and I explained to him that I don't want to give him this punishment, but he needs it because if I don't give him this punishment, his body inside of him won't learn. His head might understand, but his body doesn't understand. And if his body gets to be, let's say he's put in a room and he has to sit by himself for 10 minutes or whatever it was that the punishment was, that his body will also learn. His body doesn't want to sit by himself. So he got his punishment, and after his punishment, he came out and he said to me, Tati, he said, thank you. He said, thank you. I understand that it was for my benefit, and really it was something that, that was good. This is something that, alavai, we should all get to such a madriga, such a level, When we understand Hashem relating to us, we can. Is that my phone? Sorry. Okay, fine. We can understand that Hashem is relating to us only for our benefit, and it could give us chizuk to going forward and dealing with the difficult times. That the difficult times are only for our benefit, and we can even turn around and say thank you for the punishment, say thank you for this, which I know is only for my benefit, only for my good. And Bez Hashem, this is this is another example. So bekitzer, just to wrap things up, we have the ability in this world to experience ruchnius, to experience closeness to Hashem, even when we do physical things. Some of the example, and when we do this, we uplift the physicality and we really connect to Hashem, and we could do it all day long. We could connect to Hashem all day long. The more you study and the more you understand what it is that you're doing, and the more you think about it, the more you're able to relate to Hashem through these simple things that you're doing, and the more uplifted your whole life is going to be. A person could really have stress throughout their life, throughout their day, and difficult things, and they could turn their day from stressful to unbelievable experiences of complete ruchnius, complete spirituality and mitzvahs. And when he does that, it's like Olam Haba. We have to remember why we're raising children. We're raising children to bring knowledge of Hashem into this world, and this is everything, that the main purpose of all of our mitzvahs that we're doing, to bring kedusha here into this world. And we have to understand that children's toys are not for nothing. The children's toys are a development process that just like they go through, we also go through. At the beginning, we don't understand Hashem so well. We don't know what it means to be close to Hashem and to attach ourselves to Hashem. But as we learn and as we practice our closeness to Hashem, we actually get closer to Hashem, and it's a learning process. So just like the child has this learning process of dealing with the toys, we also have it. We have to understand. We have to have patience. Children do not yet grow up in moments. They actually, it says in Olam Haba, they will grow up instantly. They will be born fully developed, or developed within a few moments or minutes. I don't exactly know how that is going to work out physically, how that happens. But the whole child raising process is only from the sin of Chava, which may be, I think it is the punishment that she got for, one of the punishments that she got for eating from the Eitzadas Tovara. And we spoke about cleaning the baby, diaper changing and baths. That's part of a process of cleansing ourselves. We have to clean ourselves. We spoke about also waking up in the middle of the night, which is very important, to bring knowledge into our bodies, waking up. Bring knowledge into the world, into the physical. Bring our neshamas back into the physical world is waking up. We also spoke about crying of the baby, joining in with the cry of the baby, and punishment of the children. So, Bez Hashem, we should be zocha, we should all merit to be able to practice some of these things. Think about it, even if we aren't able to do it at the time of the things that we're doing, we should think about it before you go to sleep. If you know you wake up every night in the middle of the night, think about it before you wake up, and remember that this is something that you're not gonna try to shy away from anymore, because this in itself is a mitzvah. This in itself is a kedusha. This in itself is something that's amazing. And if you realize the spirituality inside of it, it'll uplift the difficult things. It'll take off the edge of the hard parts of waking up in the middle of the night, or changing the diapers, or whatever it is that a person's doing. You could do before, during, and even after. After the fact, at the end of the day, you could sit down and say, what did I do today? I brought my children here, I did this, I did that. And you can understand, to try to think about what it is, especially with these things that we spoke about, what it is that I'm really doing in life, and how important the things that I'm really doing, how they're important they really are. So, Bez Hashem, we should be zocha to apply these things and to come closer to Hashem. Thank you, everyone, for coming.